who's often referred to as the godfather of CRM. He says that social CRM is a philosophy and business strategy supported by a technology platform, business rules, workflow, processes, and social characteristics, designed to engage the customer in a collaborative conversation in order to provide mutually beneficial value in a trusted and transparent business environment. It's the company's response to the customer's ownership of the conversation. I think this is a pretty good, if rather long-winded definition. I don't really share the obsession that many social business evangelists seem to have for the quest for the perfect definition. Instead, I feel the spirit of social CRM is summed up much better by something else Paul Greenberg said at the Enterprise 2.0 conference last year. CRM was about managing the customer. Social CRM is about engaging with the customer. Most CRM systems today are very much designed to help a company manage their customers. They do very little to help engage with customers, and that's why social CRM can't be seen merely as an evolution of CRM. So if it's not just CRM 2.0, what is social CRM? What do these definitions mean in practice? The first serious piece of work done on answering this was done last year by Altimeter Group, a consultancy in the US, who published the 18 use cases of social CRM. It's a pretty good mapping of the different aspects of social CRM, but I still find it rather academic and unfathomable in places. Somewhat surprisingly, I find the most accessible list of applications of social CRM actually comes from Gartner. Gartner divide their top use cases for social CRM into applications for marketing, customer service, and sales. For marketing, they list idea management, market research for new product launches, communication of product launches, social campaigns, events, PR, brand promotion, and reputation management. For customer service, there's peer-to-peer support, customers helping each other solve their problems, customer feedback through polls and surveys, listen and respond, which is about monitoring what people are saying about you on social sites, and service process analysis. And finally, for sales, there's prospecting and research and sales collaboration. The common theme running through all of these is engaging with the customer to answer their questions, to get their opinion, or provide them better service. All of this serves to support the main objective in social CRM, which is to take unhappy, disengaged customers and turn them into happy, engaged customers. Then turn these happy customers into advocates who will recommend your products to their friends. And in turn them into customers for life who will keep coming back to you again and again. Myth number 2. Social CRM equals Facebook plus Twitter. I was recently talking about social CRM to a company, and one of the people asked me this. Am I missing something here? Can't I just use a Facebook page for this? Of course, he's not alone in thinking this. There are lots of companies out there who see social CRM as merely maintaining a presence on Facebook and Twitter. I don't for a moment suggest that you shouldn't have that presence, but if this is the only social CRM capability you've got, it greatly impedes what you're able to achieve. Facebook and Twitter are perfectly okay for pushing out marketing messages, but they're not so good for deeper engagement with customers. There's also a definite risk in placing all your social CRM capabilities on a platform you have little control over. There's a phrase which always comes to mind here. Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. The general opinion on the internet seems to be divided as to whether this was first said by Chinese military strategist Sun Tse in 400 BC, or whether it was Michael Corleone in Godfather 2 in 1974. Anyway, whoever said it is relevant to social CRM, because while a Facebook page may be okay when everything's going well, it's not so good when things turn nasty. Probably the most prominent example of this was the attack on Nestlé's Facebook page, orchestrated by Greenpeace. Nestlé's staff were particularly ill-equipped to deal with the attack, in part due to the fact it was taking place on a platform they had no control over. At the time, I remember seeing an amusing comment on Twitter from Jeremiah Ouyang, a well-known social media consultant, who asked who owns Nestlé's Facebook page. Nestlé obviously felt it belonged to them, but the customers felt it belonged to them. Of course, they were both wrong. It belongs to Facebook. And Facebook's rules are notoriously bizarre. They'll ban pictures of breastfeeding, but allow Holocaust denial groups. So you have to ask yourself, do you really want your main platform for customer engagement to be one you have so little control over? Here's another quote that I think is highly relevant to social CRM. It's originally attributed to Lyndon Johnson talking about J. Edgar Hoover, and of course been reused in British politics many times since. A lot of companies are initially nervous about hosting discussions where their customers may be saying negative things about them. But But the reality is, if you don't provide customers a forum in which they can express their opinions, the internet provides a whole load of other places where they can do so, probably in a far less constructive manner. And we'll see a good example of this a little later. It's also worth remembering that Facebook and Twitter are primarily relevant to business-to-consumer social CRM. Business-to-business social CRM is far more complicated. Instead of individual people communicating with the customer service or marketing department of a company, there may be different people at the customer communicating with many different people at the supplier. And several customers of a supplier may well be competitors of each other, so they may be very reluctant to have this conversation in public. Other customers may have no such reluctance, so there needs to be a balance between public and private discussion. Myth number 3. Social CRM stops at the edge of an organization. As we touched on in myth number 1, to some companies, social CRM is simply enabling better interaction between customer services and the rest of the company, without any visible benefit to the customer. And as we talked about in myth number 2, other companies see social CRM as just connecting their customer service or marketing departments onto Facebook and Twitter. It's not that either of these is wrong, it's just that they're incomplete. Social CRM spans the boundaries of the organization. It means integrating all customer engagement channels to enable better communication between customers, customer service, and other company employees, and indeed with other customers. An issue raised by a customer may result in discussion with other customers, discussion with the company's customer service team, and it may provoke internal discussion within the company. Clearveil has a unique way of handling this through the concept of social ecosystems. It allows several social networks to overlap each other with users and content shared between them, enabling a discussion to move between the different networks as required. So for example, a company might have a customer network, a partner network, an employee network, and a recruitment network. Employees of the company may well be in all of these networks, and it allows them to link internal and external discussions to resolve problems quickly and efficiently. Let's have a look at a quick example to illustrate this. Suppose our company sells laptops. The marketing and customer service departments have started seeing complaints on Facebook and Twitter about overheating batteries. Of course, they need to respond on the same channel the issue was reported. But they probably also need to have an urgent internal discussion about whether this is a general problem or just a number of isolated incidents. If a product recall is required, it's going to require input from several departments, and they need a way of communicating quickly and efficiently. It's a good example of the internal social CRM I mentioned earlier. When the company comes to carry out the product recall, they need somewhere to manage this process, and Facebook and Twitter really aren't suitable. You're not going to say, everyone tweet your battery serial numbers to us and try to explain the recall process in 140 character messages. Instead, the company uses their social media presence to alert customers to the problem and the product recall process, and draw customers into a social extranet for the execution of the recall program. Myth number 4. Social CRM doesn't work for some industries. Well, perhaps there's some truth in this one, but there are many more applications of social CRM than you might initially think, and I have to admit that I've been guilty of perpetuating this myth in the past. I was recently invited to talk about social CRM at an insurance company. Before I went, I was struggling a bit because it seems to me that insurance is one of a couple of types of business in this country who really don't seem to want customers for life. Their entire business model seems to revolve around heavy discounts for new customers and penalising loyal customers with ever-increasing premiums. What's the point of investing a lot of money in a social CRM strategy if your business model is simply going to drive customers away? Of course, people are always willing to pay a little more for high-quality customer service, but your customer service department would have to be phenomenally good to justify this £180 loyalty tax the Telegraph reports here. I was also a little sceptical as to whether social CRM would really work for an industry like insurance. For companies like Apple and Dell and Sony, you'd expect lots of customer problems to get resolved by suggestions from other customers. But if you need to make a claim on your insurance policy, you're not going to get much help from other policyholders. You're going to need to talk to the insurer direct. So perhaps insurance and other financial services don't fit the social CRM model very well. But that would be taking too narrow a view of what social CRM is. Remember the list from Gartner earlier in the presentation. There are plenty of other facets of social CRM that are relevant to financial services. This is an interesting example. WeBank in Italy recently ran a 6-week project on Broadvision Clearveil to crowdsource the design of a new iPad banking application. They got 6 experts into a room and broadcast a live video feed of their meetings. Anyone else could come and join the site, listen to the discussion and make suggestions. If you joined the network and contributed, you had the chance to win an iPad. It's a great example of something that goes beyond the usual stereotypes of social CRM and is something that would have been hard to achieve on services like Facebook and Twitter because of the depth of the customer engagement. So just because some social CRM uses don't apply to your business, don't assume that none of them do. Finally, myth number 5, not everyone needs a social CRM strategy. Are some companies so big and successful that they really don't need to worry about any of this? Well, to answer this, I'd like to tell you a story. It's a story about Apple. Now, I'm a fairly loyal Apple customer. Littered around my house, I've got 4 Macs in various states of disrepair, 3 iPods, an iPad, and my most recent acquisition, one of the new Apple TVs. I bought it in November in the US, and it ought to have been the perfect addition to an Apple-laden house like mine. It's tiny, silent, cheap, and lets me play video, music, and photos from the various computers around my house on the TV in the living room. Except there was a problem. It didn't work properly. Every 20 minutes or so it would go like this. The colours would go all strange. So I had a look around the web to see if this was a common problem, and sure enough, on Apple's discussion forums, I found lots of other people seeing the same thing. In fact, when I first discovered the discussion, there were already 440 replies. There are nearly 900 now. It was interesting to see the different types of response. Some people simply returned their Apple TV because it was unusable like this. Some people were holding out for a fix. The most rabid Apple fanboys tried to claim it was the TV manufacturer's fault, which is quite funny. But how many of these replies were from Apple themselves? 0. Absolutely none. Now and again, someone would post a message about how they spoke to someone in Apple support who didn't know anything about the problem, but at no point was there an official response from Apple on the issue. And around January or February, a beta version of iOS 4.3 was released. Some of the people on the forum were in Apple's developer program, so were able to try it out, and they found that the problem had been fixed. Great news. But bizarrely, when they posted some of this information on the forum, it was deleted because Apple's rules forbid the discussion of beta software on their forums. So not only were Apple failing to make an official announcement about the problem, they were preventing people spreading a bit of good news about a fix being on the way. So the discussion simply moved elsewhere, to AV forums. By being too restrictive on their own forum, Apple drove customers away. And once they'd lost control of that discussion, there was nothing to prevent people posting links to sites like these, where you could download illegal copies of Apple's beta releases. I resisted the temptation for a week or so, but after I got called to fix the colour problem for my children for about the 6th time in one film, I thought that was enough. I downloaded the beta and it worked perfectly. If you think about the objective of social CRM I showed earlier, what Apple have achieved in this particular case is almost exactly the opposite. First they drove me away from their forum, and then into downloading illegal beta versions of their software that I'd never have found if I'd stayed on their forum. You'll be pleased to hear that eventually iOS 4.3 was released earlier this month, and now I've finally got a fully functional, legal Apple TV. I don't suppose this is going to bring the whole Apple bandwagon crashing down around their ears just yet, but it does show that a policy of secrecy and a lack of communication really only works when things are going well. When things go wrong, companies need to have an effective customer communication policy in place, and these days that means having a social CRM strategy. So to summarise our 5 myths, social CRM is not just an evolution of CRM. It complements CRM, where CRM was about managing the customer, social CRM is about engaging with the customer. There's more to social CRM than just Facebook and Twitter. These are great for some things, but for more detailed customer engagement, it's better to draw the customer to a company-hosted forum where you have more control. Social CRM isn't a purely internal or a purely external thing. It spans the boundaries of an organization. Social CRM does work for all, well, okay, most industries, just not in the same way for each industry. And finally, you do need a social CRM strategy, even if you're a $300 billion giant like Apple.